So a lot of people get caught up on wanting to create dashboards or portal pages or landing pages, and they don't know how to start, where to start, and how to design it. So most people don't want to utilize the template library, which is available for everyone to contribute to. And I'm going to show you how I design beautiful landing pages, and it's through Canva. I go into create design and I look at website because when you think about it, it's an experience that people will have similar to a website. And with this, then I go ahead and I select themes that I like. So I'm going to pull this one because I don't know, this stuck out to me. Immediately, I tried to just redecorate it just a little bit, just to give it a bit more of positioning. And with this, you can actually showcase it in different sizes. So I always kind of like play around with sizes, play around with background images, and I always brand it however I like. And I use templates that's already existing in here. So I'm going to add a page and add this. So to me, this is already flowing because this is a website template that I already like. And then I would go now and be more creative and pull things that maybe didn't exist already. So I'd add this. Now I'm adding items that I want to have on here as a layout because I know that this may not actually be what I place on SuiteDash in itself, but I modify it from here so I can have a visual as to what I want. And then you can see that me putting all these here means that I'm now going to utilize this as just a regular dashboard. May not be as fancy as you like it to be, but my baseline is always to have a header that's going to be consistent on every dashboard. And then you're going to have a midsection with information. These can be clickable, so keep in mind these can be known for pictures or these can be used for whatever information you want. And then I'm going to have a different button link space. I'm going to actually remove these because these are just going to be on the actual platform itself, but ideally I want to keep there. And then if I wanted, I can add like an image or a video or something here to use this for branding purposes. So I'm going to just add an image here. Let's just add one of me. All right. So in real time, I'm going to create this. I like to show you exactly how I do it because it is a bit tricky when you're trying to translate this over to SuiteDash itself. So let's go ahead and go to new portal page. I'm going to do it from a portal page. The first thing you want to do is, of course, select all of the assignments to who you're assigning it to. I'm not going to focus on that right now. And then you can assign it to what page you want to and name it, all the things, right? So I'll just do test. You're going to select content block editor. Once you select content block editor, you want to kind of just outline your profile. So you're going to have, from what I'm seeing, I have one, so this looks like one full row. This is going to be one full row. This is going to be a 3-row. And this is going to be a 2-row, one with the little side thing at the side and then the buttons over here. So what that means is this is going to be one full row and another full row. Then if I'm going to add the other row, it's going to be a 3-row. And then I'm going to use the last row, which is going to be this side one here. So I've already laid out now what I want. Then I'm going to come back here and I'm going to modify this to be the company that I want. So the company we're going to do is Tester Co. So Tester Co is the company. These are the brand values. So in my mind, this is the layout that I want, right? I can either use this picture as the first image. So what I mean by that is actually downloading this because I've already branded it, already did what I wanted here, and just use this image as the header, or I can manually create this image. So I'm going to show you what it looks like with it just being used as the header. So, oops, drug it into the wrong spot. All right. So I can use this as an image. Now, remembering when you're adding these images, you're adding them and it's taking up a little bit of space. So always choose image sizes that make sense. And then you want to position it to center. I like to do full width because it gives the image a stretch. So that would be my header. Perfect header. So if I view this, I can see that now this is amazing. This is my header. This just won't be like changeable. You can't change the actual words on here. But if I wanted to create this, there is an alternate way for me to do this. So I can essentially use the background as the image. So I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to take out this part, and I'm just going to now take this information here and use image 2, download. So alternatively, what I'm doing is going to just pull the image background because I'm in love with the image background. Don't want to change that. So I'm going to keep that. And then on top of this, so what makes this more tricky, I would say, or not even tricky, just intricate, is that you have to add another row. And in that row, then you're going to add text. So we're going to add the text in that row there. And then, actually, you don't even need to add another row. You could just add it underneath it. And then what you're going to do is add the information that you want to add. So I'm going to add text or co. And then I'm also going to add the boldness and change the size. If you don't know CSS or coding, it's completely fine. If you go to HTML and then you just look for font size, you can adjust the size to be as big as you want to. So I'm going to make it be about 70. Now, one of the things that you need to do as well is you need to also change the color to match the background that you need. So I'm going to now change it to white. Go back here, go to style options, and you're going to do a subtract. And then I'm going to start with about 50. This is going to move the margin or the position of the text. 50 did nothing. So we're going to do about 150. And it's going to pull the text up. So as you're seeing as well, this is pulling all the bottom text up as well. So you want to be mindful of that. So I'm going to do about 250. And you can see that this right text here or the left text here is a little bit close. So I'm going to also put about a positive 20 there to give it some space. And so like you're seeing, all of the text below is also adding, I like to put like a spacer there and then edit the spacer to give it that same amount of space that I'm taking away from it. So now I'm going to go ahead and just add this a little bit more up. So I'm going to do 70 and boom. So this is a great position and this is actual text that I can change at any time. I also want to add some more information. So just as I added this co here, I'm going to do the same thing that I had on this page here. I'm going to just copy the words because this is a test. And then I'm going to add it on the bottom. You can see that it added in the same size. I want to change that. And I want to make it to be like a 14 or maybe I want to say like 16 and save. So now when I save this, oh, it wanted to act not nice to me. Oh, I put a space there as well. I put a few spaces there. And then once I save this, you're going to see it pop up there. You can also play around with spacing. So sometimes it's easier for you to put this in a color that you can see and then make it perfect. So I'm going to literally just space that the way I want it to and then put it back in that white color and then hit save. So now this is, I deleted the, oh no. This is going to be the overall, wow. The overall setting of what we have. And this helps you to just have that top layer. So if I previewed this, people will see this. And this is where you can even add like your hello, to the person because you can use your custom fields here. So if I wanted to be even more generous, I'm going to put these in a color so I can actually see it. And then I'm going to say, instead of like utilizing this, or I can keep this, but I'm going to add some spaces. I'm going to say welcome. And then I'm going to put like the custom field placeholder for first name. And then, again, spacing is important. So I'm going to just use that there. And I might make this a little bigger. So probably 18. And again, I like to do this a couple times because this is not going to be perfect. You can see it a couple times. You're playing around with the spacing. I'll probably put it right beneath it. But for the case of just showing this, it's not a perfect build right now, but you have the ability to make these adjustments. It does take me some time. I think sometimes I actually play around with this on Canva first. And then from here, I go to my next section. So my next section of this website was going to be the roster and all the things. I'm going to copy exactly what I see here. So this is after I've established a full layout, after I've established what I want to put on here. And this, I don't need to use a different, I can put this as 100. I don't need to use a picture. I'm just going to use the text that's here, but I do need to create a row instead of a different section. So I'm going to use this, and I'm going to paste this. And again, I'm going to adjust the sizing of it. So 30 might not be big enough. So I'm going to go here and do 60, and 60 looks good to me. And then I'm going to go back here. And again, I always recommend laying it out here first and then trying to just like play around with it. And then I'm going to put my words the way that it comes out. One of the best things that I've always utilized, if you don't know, I would always right click and then paste as match style, because this will allow SuiteDash to just paste with the font and all the things that you've already designated for the system, so that you don't have to do that. Sizing and all that stuff gets a little bit crazy. And so you want to just make sure that's all done. So I think that looks good. If you wanted to add more verbiage here, you could. If you wanted to change the spacing, you could. I'm just leaving it the way that it is because I think for me this works. But you can do all of that here if you wanted to. Oops, I just messed that up. So let me go ahead and fix that. So I'm going to just repaste it because it's trying to paste the other side. So I'll show you intricately how I do this, and then paste this text. And then now come here. Sometimes I have to play around with this a few times because, as you can see in real time, the spacing doesn't always want to work the way I want it to. And I normally have to go into the HTML, see exactly what's causing it. Looks like it's this spacing issue here. And it's some of these here. So we're going to take this break off and then see what happens here. All right, there we go. And then save. Sometimes spacing is just not the best on here. And I literally, because it's so intricate, I have to play around with it a few times before I actually get this perfect. So in real time, you're seeing this happen. And it's not the best. So for the sake of wanting to make sure this is done, I'm going to pause the video and start this again. Okay. It was actually a quick fix. All I did was change the size and it worked perfectly. So once that's done, now you can see that my next step is going to be filling out my 3 design here. I'm going to add a little bit of a space at the top of each row. Oops, not where I wanted to move this. Have a spacer here. So I like to add spacers so that I can have leverage of just sizing. So I'm going to add a little bit of space on every one of them. And then now I'm going to create this section that I have here. So this can be done in a few different ways. You can now take the time to create another, and this is in real time what I would do. I would create a new design and I'd create a logo. So the logo size is the most fitting for this. And if you wanted to like use this exact image that you have, I'd copy this exact thing over and then just literally fill the space. Okay. So I'd fill the space the way that you want. And I'm going to fill it like this. And I'm going to do this 3 times because I have 3 different rows. And I'm going to just quickly just do this. So this one, I'm actually going to use the framing of the box. Let's see. Actually, no, because I don't want to take too much time on this. I'm going to use the same images 3 times. Just for the sake of this demo. Of course, I can change the words here if I wanted to, if these are not going to be changed anytime soon. And I'm just keeping them inside of our system. And so I'm going to then download them. One of the tricks that I like to do here, though, is to make sure that I'm downloading it with a transparent background. The reason being is because if I wanted to change that background color to something, I could. So I'm going to go ahead and open this out, and I'm going to go over to our SuiteDash screen. I like using text blocks for images. Yeah, it's really up to you and correspondence if you want to or not. Then I'm going to literally add image 1 inside of here. And with this, you can edit the positioning and you can fill it as if you wanted to. I don't need to, but this is how now I'm creating this one. And because it's the same image, I'm not doing too much work here. I'm just going to duplicate it 3 times and I'm going to move it from one section to the next. Okay. Section 2, and then this last one. I think I put this above my space. So now this is going to be the header that is editable, the text below it, which is editable. I can have this, which is editable. These are images. And then I have the section down here now that I'm going to play around with to make it my own. So now I'm going to also add this section. This section is going to be fun to add because I have an image here that I want to use. And then I have these boxes, right? So you can have the option of keeping this exact frame the way it is. And let's just download it. And I'm going to use this image here. And the good thing is that if I do this with a full row, meaning that I'm just going to utilize this entire space here to take up the image, it might be a little bit easier for you. So if I'm going to just edit this, position center, I'm going to make this full and then save this. All I would have to do is just now add the blocks, like add the buttons. If I choose to add this separately, where I'm adding this image on this right side and then the blocks on this side, then it will be a different design. So again, I would come here. I'm going to actually keep the image, like I downloaded the image already. So I'm going to go into my downloads and I'm going to open it and I'm going to just crop it. So tools, oh, actually easy way. Just take this image here and then go to crop. So once I crop this, I can easily copy the image and then go inside of SuiteDash, click on here, take that out and then paste it. And it just simply pastes it. I want to position this to where it will make the most sense because you can see it's going to come out like an image like this. Beautiful, actually. But if I wanted to modify that in any way, then I can change the sizing of the row. So I can adjust the row however I want. I can also just make this a full width and, play around with that as well. So, I can take the time to make adjustments to it if I wanted to. I can also do the thing of changing the sizing. So I can change where the position is by moving this left 50 or, and making that bigger. So if I said, okay, I want to let's do this. Let's make this column 100. So I can make this size 100 here. So you can see now it's overlapping onto the other sides. I can really make it as big as I want to. But anyway, the point is now to get the buttons on. So if I'm doing it from this bottom section, then I'm going to click on button text. And this is going to be the more tricky part if you have it. One of the things that you want to do is adjust the sizing how you want it. So I changed the width to about 150, height about 50. So it's a little bit of a bigger button. I'm now going to have to reposition the button. So it's a bit tricky. You're going to go to style options because that's where all of this will be. And then you're going to have to play around with the margins. So this is going to probably take me about 2 to 5 minutes to figure out where the margins are. But once you start, you get a good angle as to what it would look like. And then over here, if I didn't have that other image and I wanted to play around with that sizing as well, the easier thing here is that everything is already in one section. So everything's already on the side. So I would just have to play around with like positioning. This, however, is coming from a row. So I would have to, let's see if I can get it in one shot. Just by eyeballing it, I'm gonna try to see if I can get it in one shot. To about 45 here. Oops, wrong angle. I was supposed to do it up. So not one shot. 45 negative. All right, so almost. It means I need to go over. And then also what happens that is tricky is the buttons, edit button is going to change as well. So you're going to have to really take a look at where that is. So here, and I've had issues where it's clicking other things because it can't really hover over it correctly. I'm going to do about 55 and then do about 450. All right, so I want to get to that top button. So here, it might be like a, let's see what 60 looks like. All right, so close, but not there yet. And once you get this first positioning in, the other ones are easier. So I'm going to put 80, and then I'm going to put 850. And let's try that. Almost. So the button is here. And I'm going to put 95. And I'm going to do 1,050. Okay, overshot it. So we know we're in like the 900 range. Okay, so we're probably still in the 8s. So I'm going to do an 900 in itself. Perfect. So 900, I would say it's a little bit off in terms of centering. So I'm going to do like 925 or 920. Okay, so that's a little bit overshot. So this is what I mean by it's going to take a little bit of time to play around with it. I would say this is almost there, but it would still be about a 915. Okay, so not 915, probably a little bit lower. So like 905. 905 is perfect. So we know now it's 905. And then if we look at now the left side, it's going to probably be like a 105. Let's do that. No. So we know it's not going to be a crazy pullover. So let's do 150. Almost there. And then we're going to do probably a one. I want to do 160. Almost there. And then 165. A little bit more. So I want to do 170. Perfect. So we know that this is exactly what it needs to be. Now, if I were to duplicate this button, it will come right on it. And the easiest part on this now is to just maneuver that second button. So it's going to be a little bit tricky because you have now 2 layers, 1 button, 2 button. So the second button, I'm going to push it down to about 705, but I need to keep that the same position because we know it's there already. So again, remember that the buttons are going to be down here. So it is close to 705, but I'm going to put like 675. Okay, overshot it just a small tiny bit. So what about 6? Or what about 700? Nope, not 700. I'm going to say like 680. Nope. Okay. One last time. Let's do 695. No. All right. One last time for real, for real. So I think it's going to be 690. All right. So that's perfect. So now if I were to duplicate this button, then the next button will come through. So you would play around with this until you get to that space of just understanding where things would be. So this might be like that same, but we know we don't need to change the other button. It's just really just making sure that we are adding the correct numbers for the second one. So we're going to go down to 50 is too short. So around the 75 round. Okay, 470. Perfect shot. So you can play around with the buttons. And then now, because we have all 3 here, we can duplicate any one of them. And then we can make sure we're hovering on the right one. And then now we need to change the positioning for this, but we're leaving this the same. So now, instead of it being 170, we need to do it to where it's going to be a little bit further over. So I would do like 6 And then you can see this might need to go up just a tad bit. All right, so it's a little overshot. I'm not going to take too much time on this more, but I'm going to show you just how I did all of this. Okay, so you would play around with it. It really is just you playing around with it. But at this point, now you have a full dashboard that you're kind of playing around with. And then also you can make adjustments to it in real time. So you can change this. You would do the same thing here, but this just doesn't have the background. And you can add all the amazing button features that you want. The other thing that I like adding as well, like if I had this kind of space to where it's not like the image, but I have the two columns, then I can also add whatever other widget that I wanted to. I can add the reporting widget on here. And because this is not a transparent background, this does have the white, as you can see, it doesn't transparently pull. So let me show you what a transparent background will look like with this. You know what? Let me actually download it first, transparent, to make this video go quicker. And then I'm going to go ahead and download the last page with the transparent background and save. And then now I'm going to go to that image and I'm going to cut the space that I want. So size it however I feel and then crop it. And then I'm going to save it. I've done some really fantastic edits with utilizing this because at the end of the day, I get really creative to where I'm creating full websites. I'm creating full websites. So it's very possible for you to just do this. And then the other thing I want to do is just correct the sizing of the column because the column is what's overlaying right now. So I'm going to actually take this out. And yeah, you can make adjustments to this as you feel. I've tried to play around with this a few times to where, I think I just did the same number. But I tried to play around with this a few times to where I can adjust all the things that I need. So if you have questions, if you wanted to, do different designs, and you can literally play around with this in your own way. And then the full dashboard will look like what you created in Canva. I hope that this 30-minute video was not like boring, but it gave you some insight. Have fun creating.